Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Quick video for you today. The cassette on my main training wheel is absolutely filthy. It's done about 3,000 miles and it's never been cleaned. So we've put together a quick video of how to remove and then clean and then reinstall your rear cassette. So I hope it's helpful. Cheers guys. Okay, so to get this job done properly then we'll need a chain whip, a cassette removal tool, some rag or an old cloth, a container, and you'll also need some petrol or some diesel just to wash everything in, and that's what the container's for. More on that later. Okay, so first things first then, we need to take the cassette removal tool. SRAM and Shimano use the same spline size and shape, so that will work on both types, and it just simply slots in over the top of the locking nut there. And this one we need an Allen key for, and you just insert it into the locking tool and just turn away. Now here's the problem, this is why we need the chain whip, because to undo it we're not going to be able to, because obviously the freewheel is just going to turn around. Tightening it up is fine, we could push down on here, and because of the way the freewheel works we're not going to it's going to allow us to tighten it. So this is where, as I say, we need the chain whip. So I'll just pop that off a second. Okay, so what we need to do then is now place the chain whip around one of the cogs, one of the rings on the gears. That one will do nicely. I'm going to provide a bit of tension upwards. I'm going to insert the cassette removal tool, and it simply clicks undone. All it needs a couple of turns and then you can turn it by hand. You can see why this one needs degreasing, it's absolutely disgusting. So there we go, that's the locking ring off. So I'm going to place that into my ice cream tub. We can now remove the chain whip because we don't need that anymore, and now we take off the individual gears, and I'm going to place all of these individually into the ice cream tub. Now when you get through the first bunch of gears, you get to the plastic spacing rings. Don't put those into the tub. They need to stay out of the diesel or the degreaser that you're going to use. These gears are horrible. That's the next one. Let's put that to the side. And now there's the main three big gears on the cassette. They can come off, and now we can remove the spacer as well. This is how we get access to all of the spokes in the back as well, so if you did need to tighten any spokes or remove or replace any spokes on the rear wheel, you have to take the cassette off. To put everything back on, one thing, if it's your first time and you're not quite sure what you're doing, it is worth taking those gears off one at a time and maybe putting some thread around them just so that they stay in the correct order. But it's fairly straightforward when you're done, to be honest. There is a small spline on this rear cassette that you can see here. That's how you line up the gears on here when you're replacing them. So we'll have a look at that later on. Okay, so we're out in the open now, got a nice ventilated area. I'm just going to pour on the gas that we're going to use, the petrol that we're going to use to help us degrease this. I prefer to use petrol or diesel ideally. I have used degreasers in the past, but they tend to strip all of the oils out of the chains and the bearings, etc. when you're doing chains and stuff. So, and you can see straight away how dirty that water's gone. It's starting to strip all that grease off quite quickly. As I say, make sure you do it outside in a ventilated area away from kind of flame and open source of ignition, and we can just give those a shake around. And I'm actually just going to leave them for sort of 10-15 minutes just to thoroughly soak. And I do exactly the same with chains as well. I just, if they need a thorough clean, I tend to do this. And the other thing about using petrol or diesel, as I say, you can see it stripped it all off now. But one of the great things is that it does leave behind a film of oil anyway, so you don't have to go too crazy when it comes back around to to re-oiling. So there we go. I'll leave that for 10 or 15 minutes. We'll come back to it and clean everything off and then put the cassette back together. Okay, so here are all the gears then. They've just come out of sort of 10 or 15 minutes soaking. These ones I've given a quick wipe down with the old tissue paper there. These ones have still got to be done, but it only takes 2 seconds. You know, you just give each gear a quick clean. Okay, so we've given it a thorough clean, and now it's time to start rebuilding the cassette. What I've done, I've turned the freewheel itself so that the thin spline here is at the top. I'm going to take my first part of the cassette, the main kind of 3 gears there. I've got the thin notch which matches up with the spindle there, and that just simply slides on like that. Next thing you're going to need is a spacer, so you pop a spacer ring on, and then the next gear is the 22 on this cassette, so that's this one, which just slides on like that, again just aligning the thin spline. That's what we're going to do with all of these as we go. Another spacer goes on there. The next gear is the 19, just, there we go, that pops on like that. Another spacer. The next gear we're going to pop on is the 17. There we go, that's in. Now the final spacer, all these next gears have got spacers built into them. The final sort of free gear is the 15, so just there it is. There's the thin spline at the top. Okay, these next ones then, these are the next kind of, what are the 3 gears? Yeah, 3 gears left to go on. These ones have got a flange built into them, which we use as the spacer itself. So again, the thin notch, this is the 13 tooth gear, so that's in. You can see that's left the gap there, as it would have done if we'd have popped a spacer in. Second to last gear now, this is the 12, and again, flange on the bottom here. A little bit of a recess on this as well, because this is where the locking nut sits into. Where is it? There we go. That goes that way around. And then the final gear. And again, this one's kind of got, this has got a flange built into it, but it's also got a kind of ribbed cover on top, which the lock nut tightens up to. So just a quick look where the thin one is. So there's the thin ridge. There we go, and that slips in quite nicely. Finally, the locking nut, just drop a little bit of grease around the locking nut itself. Sometimes there's also a crush washer, a rubber washer, which you need to put in first. There isn't on this one. So I'm just going to hand tighten that up, and you need to be really careful with this when you start it off, because if you cross thread, the metal's really soft in here, so you just need to start it off really gently and take your time. Okay, once you've pinched that up tight, it's just a case of placing the locking nut in and then tightening it up against the freewheel tension. And it doesn't need to be too tight, this one. Just snipped up like that. And that's it done. And the only thing you'll need to do now is give it a quick squirt of GT85, and that's ready to go back onto the bike. So we've got rid of the back spoke protector. It looks nice and shiny now, and yeah, that's it. Cheers guys.